Heyo, Chris here, and thanks for tuning into the Delta. I hope you're having a great day, enjoying the summer break in Formula One. I'm kind of in between on it, honestly. I was kind of looking forward to the summer break, especially because work has just been absolutely brutal, setting bridge beams down, pouring concrete for the bridge, tying rebar, all kinds of crazy stuff. And with that, you get about twice as much of the paperwork. So I was like, we're hitting the busy season, and the F1 summer break is going to be kind of beneficial. Maybe I can put out a video or two. Just haven't had time at all. And then on top of that, I'm going on vacation myself during the summer break. So this is all kind of working together. But I do apologize for not getting a video out more consistently during this time. That's something that I think as a content creator I need to work on, or something that I'm going to work on, especially come this winter season when I won't be working as much. So I plan on trying to be more creative. That is a now self-induced goal of mine. I found that when there isn't racing going on, that suddenly, like, being super creative and having fun with content and trying to figure things out is much harder than when there's a race that you can, piggyback off of. So that is my personal goal that I'm going to work on this off season, is try to be more creative when no racing is going on. So next year when the summer break comes about, hopefully I won't be as busy as I am today or recently. I can be more active in posting content for you guys. But likewise, if you do like my content and want to join me on my YouTube journey, bang bang, like and subscribe to the channel. It helps me out a lot. I appreciate all the support I've been getting. You guys have been super helpful, also in the comments letting me know areas where I can be better or correcting me in my Formula One knowledge. I love all of that stuff. I don't like giving out bad information, and I don't like putting out bad content. So your guys' opinions and thoughts and so on and so forth really help me out a lot. But like I said there in the beginning, we're going to go over the 10 teams that we have and go over where they're at come the summer break, and what kind of grade I would give them, heading into the next race here in a few weeks. So we'll first start off with Kick Sauber. It's a pretty cut and dry grade in my opinion. I'm just giving them a 1 out of 10. I understand they didn't have a lot of money coming into the season because they weren't good last year, and I understand they don't have the greatest driving pairing in the world, and they don't have the greatest pit crew. I get that all the things are stacked against them, but you would have to think that by this stage in the season, you'd at least have 1 point, and they have a big old goose egg, 0. Bottas, I think, is getting the most out of the car when it is available, but even so, it's not impressive in any shape or form. And Guan Yu Zhou, just one race after another. He stacks bad races together. At times he even looks slower than Logan Sargent. So he's not helping the team in any shape or form. The pit stop crew screwing things up there, especially in the beginning of the season, just race after race, just not good. So sorry, Kick, but you're just gonna end up with a 1 out of 10. Time for you to hit the books and study a bit harder, because you're gonna have to figure something out if you ever want to be competitive in the future. And then we'll move on to Williams. And I'm giving them a 3 out of 10. I was teetering between 2 or 3. I think James Vowles has good intentions for the team and has a plan for more of the future. So while I think they wish they had more than the 4 points they have currently in the constructors standings, I think they are looking big picture. They figured out a way now to jettison Logan Sargent. They have a number 2 for next season. So I think that was maybe their team goal for the beginning of the year. Like, look, let's see how Logan does. If he does great, let's, carry on with that. If he doesn't do great, let's cut our losses this season, take what we can get, build the car how the best we can, and try to get Carlos. Obviously, again, I think with Alex Albon, you would want more than a 4 points total in all these races, and that's why they're obviously getting a low score. But their expectation to me was either we're going to be very mid or very bad, and they just didn't get to the midpoint side. So 3 out of 10, I think, is a fair grade for them. But then we'll move on to the 8th team in the Constructors. With 11 points, it's Alpine. And I'm giving them 2 out of 10. Even though they have more points than Williams, the expectations for this team were significantly higher. No one expected them to have to get rid of Ocon. No one expected them to get rid of Bruno Fama. So, like, on top of that, they got rid of their one race boss or pit boss or race engineer. I forget his name. It eludes my mind right now. But they've just been getting rid of people, and the car came in too heavy, and it came in too slow. They're just driving a tractor, and they've shown moments of improvement here and there, but I have a feeling, especially based off of their livery launch there before the season started, that they had aspirations to be fighting up against RB, even Aston Martin, and stuff like that, and instead they've gone, totally backwards. And like I said, there's not all well in the garage between the drivers, and the team boss can't even keep the job for a year. So yeah, sorry Alpine, you get a 2 out of 10. Again, they're right there with Williams and Kick, just trying to get through the season so they can start fresh again next year. At 7th, we have Haas. They are obviously in 7th place there in the constructor standings with 27 points, and I'm giving them a solid 7 out of 10. They are like the total opposite of Alpine. I was expecting Haas to have a season like Alpine is having, and instead they're having a season that Alpine expected to have. They have shown up to the race season with lower expectations and then exceeded them, and I had low expectations for them and they exceeded them. They are finding ways to be competitive in every race, sometimes a little risky with Magnussen there, in the beginning of the season, getting all those penalty points, but they fight every race. They fight for every position. I mean, to the point where they find a way to get Nico Hülkenberg P6 2 races in a row. So Haas is definitely just outperforming the expectations, I think, amongst all of the F1 world. Their own expectations, my expectations, probably your expectations. Every analysis is expectations. So, a solid 7 out of 10 for Haas. And then we'll go on to RB, who has 34 points, 6 in the Constructors. And I'm giving him 6 out of 10. I just don't think they had as great of a season as Haas. That might be a little skewed because, like I said, the expectations were so low for Haas that they might get a little grade boost just for the success that they are having. But, I mean, they only have a 7-point lead on RB. I mean, we're talking about a few placements in a few different races where things go a little bit different, and Haas could be in RB's spot. And I think RB, much like Alpine, thought they would be competing a little bit more with Aston Martin, and they're not. They are, 40 points, at least 39 points behind Aston Martin and the Constructors. And that's just, again, I think they were expecting that to be a little closer. Now, I will say they're getting the 6 out of 10 because Yuki Tsunoda is doing very well. The car obviously was not up to snuff for Daniel Ricciardo's standards there in the beginning of the season, and Yuki really picked up the slack for that first little stint there, picking up all the points he could, racing really hard, racing well enough where we're all sitting here saying, well, I wonder if he's going to get that Red Bull seat, So Yuki saves the day and gives him a 6 out of 10, but I think when you're RB, you're looking at your driver lineup, you're probably thinking you're getting a few more points out of Daniel Ricciardo, and that's just not happening. And then you have number 5, Aston Martin. I'm giving them a 4 out of 10. They have been disappointing in my opinion. I get that they have 73 points. They're the prime meridian of the constructor standings, right there smack dab in the middle with 73. But you have Fernando Alonso, and you're running into a situation where Fernando Alonso is grumpy to say the least, over the radio most of the time. He's getting outperformed by Lance Stroll, which maybe Lance Stroll's just coming around finally, 7-8 years into his Formula One career. But it just doesn't seem that the car was ever going in the right direction. They started strong, they looked strong at least, and you had hope, like, oh sweet, look, maybe a few upgrades, a few changes, let's go Aston, maybe you can fight for 4th place, whoever that team will be in. And then they upgraded their car and it turned into a downgrade. They got slower, they didn't have pace, they were slow on the straights, and well, now you're in a position where you're probably just not going to catch the 4th place spot. And what you're going to end up doing is you're actually just going to defend your 5th place spot. I don't see a way for them to suddenly catch up to Mercedes, who's on fire as of recently. And you're only 39 points ahead of RB. It's probably more wise to figure out a way to just be better than RB. And then finish the season that way and go into the offseason with your 5th place winnings. At number 4, you got Mercedes, and I'm giving them a solid 8 out of 10. It is impressive what they were able to do. They started the season there slow, ugly. Lewis Hamilton moaning, George Russell not happy, double DNF there in Australia. I mean, obviously Russell got crashed, but I mean the power unit is shut off there on Lewis Hamilton in that race. But then since Miami, they brought in a piece here and a bit there and a bob here, and just the car progressively got faster and faster and faster. Now, they are kind of stuck there in the constructors with 266. I'm not saying it's impossible for them to catch Ferrari. It's quite possible, especially when the team in front of you is Ferrari. But just the progression and where they are, they're winning races. Lewis Hamilton with Silverstone, George Russell sneaking in that win there in Austria. And I mean, I know his car was light, but he did technically be quick enough to win Spa. But yeah, they're just doing really well. I can't give them a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10 because they do. They have mistakes like, Silverstone, George Russell DNFs, or they did start the season very poorly, or you had a race winner get disqualified because of a too light of a car. So you're obviously not getting a 9 or a 10 because of that, but I am thoroughly impressed with how Mercedes has been able to turn it around, and I expect them to carry on once we get back from summer break. And yeah, 8 out of 10 for Mercedes. At number 3 in the constructors, you have Ferrari with 345 points, and my grade for them is going to be a 5 out of 10. I'm not going to sit there and say I was expecting them to be battling Red Bull for the Constructors' Championship. There was a moment in the season where that might have happened, but at least prior to the season starting, I was like, I just want them to be competitive. Every year since I've been watching, they've managed to bungle their season or bungle the races in one way or another, and then they started the season out the opposite of Mercedes, so strong. Yeah, they weren't at Red Bull level, but they were better than McLaren. They were better than Mercedes. And it looked like by a solid margin, you're like, that car is pretty quick. And then as the season evolved, we get more and more information and more data. And you're like, well, that McLaren caught up pretty quick. That's okay. It's Ferrari. They're going to come up with their upgrades and they'll widen that. They didn't widen the gap. Oh, man, it looks like Red Bull's struggling. This is an opportunity for Ferrari to take some positions away from old Max Verstappen there. They didn't take that away. It's just not a good season in my opinion when it looks like everybody else was able to make their car faster in a season where Red Bull is kind of like maxed out their car and can't get much faster. So everyone got closer to Red Bull, and then Ferrari bungled it up just like last year, just like the year before. Just not very good. I mean, the strategies are bad in some races. You're putting slicks on a wet track for Leclerc, and then you're putting wets on a dry track for Leclerc. Like everything is just not well. The only reason I give them a 5 out of 10 is because they did start the season strong. They are clearly better than all the other teams above, behind them, like Aston Martin and above. Like, Like, they have to get a decent grade for at least that. But I feel like I'm going to be harsh on them because my expectations was to be a little bit more competitive. We'll see that they can increase their grade for the end of the season grades if they finish the season out strong. But right now, just probably, I'm not confident in the team. I'm not confident in the drivers. Maybe I'm confident in the drivers. I'm not confident in the team giving the drivers the tools they need to be successful. And I feel like every single race I'm watching Charles Leclerc or Carlos Sainz just doing the best they can to get a mediocre finish by the end of the race. At number 2 in the constructor standings, you have McLaren with 366 points, and my grade for them is going to be a 9 out of 10. They have had a solid season all year long. Now, obviously, they weren't up to snuff with the Ferraris at the beginning of the season, but they were at least competitive at the beginning of the season. And then they did. They upgraded their car here and upgraded their car there and actually saw rewards for doing those things. So here they are now. They're faster than Ferrari. They're faster than Mercedes. And they're a lot of times faster than Red Bull. And they managed to climb in the ranks in the constructors and even in the drivers. Lando and Piastri just climbing the ranks in the drivers' standings. It's a very well-ran team, I think, in the sense of they know what they have. So they're not screwing it up like Ferrari. Like, you'll see what I'm saying here. McLaren is screwing up themselves by poor strategies and having like internal battles there during the race there with Piastri and Norris wanting to switch spots. Like, that's bad. That's why you're getting the 9 out of 10 and not a 10 out of 10. But at the same time, you're not bungling it up like Ferrari, where Norris is getting lapped 2 races in a row. You're not putting, slicks on a wet track. So you are doing the right things to put you in the position that you're in, but you're just not doing everything right. It's kind of like when you were in school and you wrote an essay, right? And you thought it was a banging essay. And then your teacher goes, well, you used your prepositions incorrectly here, and you have a run-on sentence here. And while you got your point across, it was a very good essay, you made a few little mistakes along the way, and that's why you don't get a 100. That's how I look at that. McLaren's almost there. They gotta fix their little foibles that they make throughout a little race here and there. And if they can do that, I can actually see them catching Red Bull in the constructors and even winning it. They're only, 38 points or something like that. Doing just mental math in my head looking at these numbers. About 38 points behind. That's technically a 1 race. 2 DNFs from Red Bull and a 1-2 finish from McLaren. They're taking the constructors' lead. And then that will lead me then into Red Bull, who is number 1 still in the constructors with a 408 total points. I'm giving them an 8 out of 10. They are not doing as well as McLaren. They started the season very well. I mean, Max Verstappen blew away everybody in Bahrain. But since then, they've just... I don't necessarily know if it's their fault. Like, I can't sit there and be like, they've messed up here and they've messed up there. Well, obviously, Perez has been messing up. And that's a big problem. So you're going to lose points for that. But you have a Max Verstappen who wins races regularly. And... But yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily the Red Bull's fault because they're right here. Here's the ceiling, and they can't go much higher. Like, how are you improving the car without breaking the rules type of thing? I'm sure there's ways that they can come up with better strategy and stuff like that than just relying on car performance solely. So I'm not sitting there saying, oh, well, they're definitely going to get caught by McLaren. There's going to be some changes made here come the end of the summer break. And I think that Red Bull's going to win a few more races. It's not like I think they're just now going to be, P2, P3, or P5 while Perez is sitting in the P10 range. That's not what I think at all. I think when we get back, we'll see Red Bull competing for victories. We might even see Perez do a little bit better. And I still think that McLaren will be the better car as the season progresses. I just think that having a Max Verstappen is going to be the difference in in everything. So, yep, Red Bull gets a 8 out of 10. But anyway, those are my grades for the mid-season or summer break grades for the F1 teams. A little long-winded, I apologize. I hope you stuck through it all. But anyway, I'm going to be going on vacation here next week. I will be back and ready to do more race previews, reviews, predictions. Voodoo Wheel will be coming back on our next race. But until then, take care, stay safe, and have fun out there. Bye, everybody.